by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Andrew Ellis, as Curtis Wilkerson's going to be joining us later this afternoon for our special stream. But either way, we appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, which in case you didn't see the tweet or anything, we know that Sam Pittman is going to be meeting with the media today for the first time. He gets to speak. That press conference is at 1:30. So what we're going to do here, Andrew, is we're going to do Inside Arkansas Live like normal up until about 1 o'clock or 1-ish today. We will end the stream. We will have the press conference with Sam Pittman at 1:30, and then around 2 o'clock or whenever it's over, we'll go live again, recapping it and getting into the biggest storylines from that press conference. So a little bit different, but once again, we're providing all the people the best and most consistent content around.
Yeah, I know we had discussed possibly like doing something in the middle of the press conference, and even though we're not the biggest fans of the, or I guess the U of A is not the biggest fans of us, we don't want to ruin what little relationship we do have left. So we made the executive decision. We feel like this is the best way to go about this. And again, like we're gonna cover it the best we can. We're gonna kind of pregame it here today, and I can't wait to hear what Sam Pittman has to say, and I can't wait to talk about it because. I mean, look, there is a lot to talk about. I honestly do not envy Sam Pittman at all. I imagine he's probably listening to some Eminem getting hyped up for this press conference. He's going to need to be on his A game, man. He's going to need to have answers to a lot of questions. Whether those answers are good, bad, right, or wrong, you just have to have an answer. You have to have thought about some of these things that he's going to get asked about. And I know everybody's going to be waiting on pins and needles to see if the media ask the tough questions, and so we'll get to see all that too. But I have a feeling, John, that there's just no path to everyone being satisfied today, which frankly, like, you know, I'm not saying that anyone should be satisfied. Like, I have no idea what he's about to say, but I imagine it's going to be yet another, as you would call it, an insane day.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be. And so that's what's going to make it fun. We will talk about that, folks. Also, the 2025 schedule officially did get released. And we will talk about that. But I want to start, though, with, portal news is what we discuss a lot. And there was some portal news. And for a change, it was actually a positive portal news as Steven Dix Jr., the linebacker for the University of Arkansas, officially announced on social media that he is returning to the Razorbacks next season. He was one that I think even all of us were doing it. We kept thinking, like, can he come back? Because he's a redshirt senior this year. Can he come back? Well, apparently so, because he is going to come back for this next year, and I guess he'll be a super duper redshirt senior. But either way, he was a guy I don't think anybody really considered before the season started, being like, oh, this is a guy you got to count on this year. But he did a really good job. I mean, there were times where he had a lot of tackles and even led the team in tackles in a couple of games too. And he was a guy that, again, from Marshall of all places, that he transferred in. So if you're trying to find any sort of continuity or any sort of guy to get back, well, here's one, and it's not as big as maybe the others that have left, but it's still a nice little piece of good news to get Steven Dix back for Arkansas.
Yeah, when Brad Spence entered the portal yesterday, we were trying to do the math, and we were like, okay, does that count as a returning starter? Does he count as a starter that has entered the portal? And the reason we were having to have that conversation is because Dix had kind of emerged as that number 2 linebacker for Arkansas. Obviously, Xavier Sori being the number 1 linebacker who is the consistent mainstay, and he's, of course, back as well. But Dix really became a much more key factor on this team than I think anybody expected. And that's not saying that we had low expectations for Steven Dix. The coaching staff themselves, Travis Williams said, the reason we offered Steven Dix is we saw that he played linebacker and he was in the portal. That was enough for us to offer him because last season in the offseason when Arkansas lost 4 linebackers, they needed all the help they can get. They pulled up on Steven Dix, who, by the way, just looks the part. Like, if you just, when he gets off the bus, looks like an SEC linebacker, looks like an NFL guy. So nice to have that. He's obviously got a ton of experience. This will be his 6th year of college football, I believe. And yeah, with the eligibility these days, we can never really keep track of who has a year, who doesn't, who's listed as a redshirt senior, but it's really not a redshirt senior. All that we can, bottom line is Arkansas has a starting linebacker back in the mix, and it'll nice little pairing there with Xavier Sori. You've got some nice young pieces still remaining on the team in Bradley Shaw and the freshman Tavion Wallace, and so there's some optimism with this linebacker situation, despite losing a guy in Brad Spence, who I felt like was a really promising piece, who was primed to take another step forward next year. If you're going to lose a piece like that, you better get a guy like Steven Dix back. So look, I think it's a mini silver lining. And we've said it a few times now this offseason that Arkansas has all this chaos at every position group, but linebacker is the one that we're really not too panicked about. And I feel even more so that way with Steven Dix this year. And so look, it's a starting point. You've got 2 starting linebackers, some nice pieces behind them. Still, again, a ton of work to do. I'm sure the listeners are tired of hearing me say that. Ton of work for this team to do in the transfer portal. But you've got a really nice starting point and a core to kind of build around there at linebacker.
Yeah, linebacker, at least at this point in time, as weird as it is to say, it might be the team unit I'm most confident in next season because it's really the only one you have people returning at, or at least key contributors there. So, yeah, good to see Steven Dix Jr. Announcing that he will be returning, and we'll see how the rest of it plays out. But as far as right now, there has been no other major additions to the transfer portal here recently. So we'll keep you updated on that. But also, too, since we're talking about, because we'll go through the schedule, I wanted to use this as kind of the question of the day presented by Alumni Hall, which you can always get your best Razorback apparel from Alumni Hall right there in Fayetteville, 3417 North College Avenue, as well as shopping them online at alumnihall.com. It's the ultimate Razorback shopping experience for all the gifts and apparel that you could use for the Christmas holiday. It's Alumni Hall. Andrew, the question is just simple. What do you want to hear from Sam Pittman today? And this can be what is a question you want him to answer, or what is just something you want to hear him say. The words come out of his mouth. As you can imagine, when I asked the question on Twitter, everyone just basically said, I want to hear him say I'm retiring, or I'm leaving, or I'm quitting. So, there's that. But just for you personally, what is the thing that if you could get one thing for Sam Pittman to answer a question on, answer honestly, or at least say, what would it be?
So I feel like it's more, one, I don't expect the big retirement announcement to come via Zoom, because this isn't even a press conference that people can attend in person. So I have a hard time imagining you're getting like a massive big announcement where that's going to change the direction of the program. But in terms of just narrative that can come out of this thing, I don't want to hear Sam Pittman try and like convince us that things aren't that bad, or say, oh no, all these players leaving is not a big deal. Basically, what I want to hear him say is similar to what Mark Stoops said when he ended the year at Kentucky, where he was like, look, I get why everyone's concerned. I get that we have a lot of guys leaving. Don't worry. We have a plan. We're going to have a good football team next year. And now look, if Sam Pittman says that, there's going to be 1,000 fans who say, I don't believe you. Hell, I might not even believe him, but I don't want to hear him trying to convince us that this isn't that bad and that, oh, it's not a big deal that these guys are leaving. It is a big deal that everyone's leaving, but there is still a case to be made that they can go out there and land a good portal class. And so if Sam Pittman goes up there and says, look, guys, I'm seeing the same stuff you're seeing. I know all these guys that you love are leaving, guys that we like, good football players are leaving the program, but we feel like we have a good chance to fill those gaps, build a nice team around them. Again, I don't think it's actually true. I think whatever he's going to be saying is a little bit of a fabrication, but I would just like to hear him be confident and say, looking forward. I don't want to see him trying to nitpick all these things and saying, well, NIL and, well, it's all about the money. We don't have that. And like trying to kind of convince everyone that the situation isn't that bad. I want him to just look forward and be like, look, I get why you guys are concerned, but I have a plan. That's kind of the message I want to hear him say today.
Yeah, I want to just have acknowledgement. I think more than anything, acknowledging that this is a problem. You don't ever want your leader or anybody like Sam Pittman or a coach to just come out and be the world is coming to an end and everything's just awful and panic mode, because that's not what you want your strong leaders to do. But there is nothing wrong with just admitting that, hey, obviously this is something we got to work. We're working really hard right now, and we're going to get it fixed. We're going to make sure that we get some great players in. That's what I want to hear is just, yeah, I feel you. It's bad, but this is how we're going to fix it. And moving forward, this is why you should still believe that it's going to be fine. Because fans need to hear that. This has to be the best performance that Sam Pittman has ever given in a press conference. I mean, it has to be. People talk about the one that you get when you first hired, and yeah, that's important. But this is the one where if you were ever going to be putting on a great performance, which he hasn't many times in press conferences, this is the time you got to put together your A game. And so I just want to see the acknowledgement. I want to see a little bit of the sense of urgency too, of like, hey, we're 3-4 days into this transfer portal thing, and we are in it. We got everybody working 24/7 around the clock, just trying to make sure we get the best guys in. Acknowledgement, understanding it, and not trying to sugarcoat it and just saying it is what it is. I want to see that. But I know, as you know, kind of your thing from talking about the media or how people feel about the media. Just a reminder, folks, it's not about just coming out and being like, "Hey, Sam Pittman, why the F are you still even here?" Is that what you want the media to say? They're not going to ask that question. They're going to ask it in a way that's still respectful, that's professional, and just because it's not worded the way you want doesn't mean it's still not answering the same question. Now, if nobody asks him in this press conference about the portal exits or the issues of losing key contributors on the offensive line or anything like that, then yeah, that's a problem. But just because there's not hellfire and brimstone from the media being like, "How dare you do this?" that you got to relax. You got to understand it's a different element. And I'm hopeful, and I believe that there are going to be some tough questions asked to Sam Pittman today. I really do.
I mean, there will be some version of that. And look, it's not going to be right out the gate, pitchforks, and we want your head on a platter or anything like that. And I think you bring up a very good point that there's a way to go about getting answers. I mean, just think of anybody in your life. How are they going to respond if you go up and you kind of point the finger at them and like, "Hey, you're an asshole, blah, blah, blah." They're not going to respond well. Even if they have an actual answer, they're not going to give you that answer. So I think there definitely is something to be said about not tiptoeing and walking on eggshells and hoping you don't upset the head hog or anything. I feel like, and honestly, a guy that gets a lot of credit, or a guy gets a lot of flack for this, is Trey Biddy. I feel like Trey Biddy does a pretty good job at just kind of being like, "Well, Sam, things aren't great." Now he asks his, "Have you watched football over the weekend?" and the the kind of layup questions, but I feel like he's been pretty pointed. I mean, I go back and watch that Trad Morris press conference from back in 2019 all the time. And I love the way that the media kind of grilled him and the way that you could see him squirm. And I think going back to Sam Pittman's performance, that's the key here. Is I don't want to see Sam trying to win the press conference.
No.
Now, Sam Pittman has won many press conferences. He's had some ups, and it's been a roller coaster with his press conference performances. He's had some really good moments on the mic where I've left being like, "You know what? I feel pretty good about, the situation. I feel pretty good about Sam Pittman. I thought he did a good job." I've had a lot of those moments, but they have rarely come when he is trying to like over explain and, "Well, we thought this and we did this," and blah. Like a lot of times when he's just confident and is like, "Hey, we're going to have a good football team. You just wait and see what we get in the portal," kind of that thing. I think that's the kind of vibe he's got to go for here. But I absolutely look, even if it's not every single question is a super grilling thing, there will be some stupid questions about, Taylen Green and how important his leadership is and stupid stuff like that. But I believe there will be some questions about the roster, questions about why is this happening at Arkansas? Because again, it's not like it's happening everywhere. I believe you're going to get some. And look, will Sam Pittman's answers suffice you guys? Probably not. They're probably not going to suffice me. But we're just going to have to see what we get. And honestly, I feel like the U of A put Sam, and I don't want to blame all the U of A because part of it's on his surgery and just the timing of it all and how he wasn't able to speak. But the fact that it's been so long puts more and more pressure on this press conference, where if we had gotten to hear from him on signing day and he was able to hype up that signing class and then maybe talk about the bowl game and talk about what they want to do, then it would maybe make this press conference less pressure filled. But the fact that it's been so long, the anticipation is building and so much stuff has happened. There's almost too much for them to cover in this one press conference.
Yeah, it could be a press conference that it just depends on the SID too, because they could end it quick. But this could be that's when I said 2:00 ish is when we do the live stream reacting to it. It could be 2:15, 2:30, just given how much time that the media is going to be able to ask questions, because there's a lot to cover. I mean, signing day feels like it was 10 years ago, and it was literally a little over a week. So that is going to be what happens. And so, folks, we'll react to it. Again, we'll be back right here live on Inside Arkansas as soon as the press conference ends. We'll have clips to play from the press conference, so we'll react to some of the comments made. And if you want to just get crazy, wild, pissed off, and go wild with it, then all right, do it in our chat. We will address all of that too. So, but it'll be fascinating to hear from Sam Pittman and what he has to say. One of the most anticipated press conferences I can remember in a while of a Sam Pittman deal. So, I did want to real quick, because I know we'll get into the schedule talking about it for 2025. There's a few chats though I wanted to address here. Like Jordan says, who is attending the presser from Inside Arkansas? Well, here's the deal. It's a Zoom press conference only, so no one's in person. The questions are only going to be via Zoom, which will be interesting to see how that goes. But we're all going to be in it. We're not necessarily allowed to ask questions because Inside Arkansas is not to that level, apparently, to some. So we will not be asking questions, but we all will be there in the Zoom, at least in the Zoom press conference.
The only time they let us ask questions is when Dave Van Horn specifically points me out before the press conference starts. So then it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. You can't just sit there in silence. You got to say something. Also, let's see. I like this from SCT. He's like, the media needs to agree to walk out if they shut down tough questions. You know what's funny, SCT? You know what the university in Arkansas and Sam Pittman and everybody would do if that happened? They'd be like, okay, thank goodness. Because all that does is just, do you think they want to talk to the media? They don't have to talk to the media. I mean, it's more of a privilege thing. It's not like they have to legally obligated to do it. So if everybody walked out, they'd be like, sweet, don't have to do anything about it. And so I get what you're saying, but still, that's just not how it works.
I also would point out that, like, as much as we give the U of A grief and kind of, throw our little shots at them, it's not like the U of A has a long history of doing that. Maybe it's happened a few times here and there on specific things. I can't remember a time where Kyle Parkinson has like stepped in and been like, don't ask that question. At least I don't remember it. In that situation of the Liberty Bowl, that was a Liberty Bowl guy who was just being a little weird, probably took his job a little too seriously. But again, that wasn't like the U of A's way of silencing the media or preventing Sam Pittman from being grilled. I don't think that's going to happen here. The only time that you really can't ask about certain things is when, like, for instance, if you're expecting Sam Pittman to talk specifics about players in the portal that they're trying to get, he's not able to do that. Like, he literally is legally not allowed to say that Oregon offensive lineman's name, that New Mexico running back's name, that Texas State running back's name. Like, he can't say their names publicly. So if someone asks him about that, he's got to be quiet. But it's not like the U of A really does that typically, where they're like censoring what questions happen.
No. And in fact, I will say, if they came out before the press conference started and said, hey guys, no questions on anything but the Liberty Bowl and signing day, then that's a problem. Like that's going to be some BS. But but you're right. They have not said anything about anything in particular as far as that goes. This just happened, Andrew. I got breaking news, as you would say. But it's nothing surprising. But Taylen Green, though, officially announced he is returning to Arkansas.
Okay.
So he said real quick, I'm deeply thankful to God for putting me in the position I am today. I appreciate everything Coach Pittman has done for me over the last year. His unwavering support, leadership, belief in me throughout my time here has made this an incredible season, both on and off the field. I'd also like to thank Coach Petrino for helping me grow as a player and as challenging me to be my best. Also thank my family for the love, sacrifices, and encouragement. With that said, I'm incredibly grateful to be returning back to the University of Arkansas for my final collegiate season. So there you have it. Taylen Green is officially coming back. I know, again, we'll get to the schedule, but now that it's official, at least, Andrew, good, bad, and different as far as Taylen Green coming back.
I mean, good. It has to be considered a good because, again, like, what else are you going to do at this point? There's a lot of quarterbacks moving and shaking and entering the portal and whatever, but I feel like if Arkansas tried to enter that race now, they'd be a little bit behind the 8 ball. I mean, hell, they're like a lot of the quarterbacks that you would be interested in getting have already either announced their intention. Like I saw Wegman's going to Houston. Miller Moss has already taken visits. Like a lot of these quarterbacks are kind of already have their mind made up. So I don't think Arkansas wants to enter any of those sweepstakes right now. And I feel like we all kind of knew that Taylen Green was coming back. I mean, it's something we haven't even discussed on the show of like, is he or is he not? We kind of read the writing on the wall and assumed. I thought it was good for him to go ahead and put out a statement because I know there were a lot of fans who were actually kind of curious. They were like, isn't it weird that he hasn't said anything, which just says what day and age we're in, that like we need the quarterback to announce that he's not leaving. But seriously though, I think it was good for him to say something, just kind of hammer home that sense of stability. He wasn't in the schedule release video yesterday with Sori and Cam Ball, so I was like, oh, maybe something's going on. But no, I think it's definitely a good thing. I mean, look, say what you will about Taylen Green, the player, and if you're underwhelmed by his talents, whatever the case may be, you know this, John, and I mean we've said it a lot that he's a very important leadership presence in that locker room and on this team. And again, even if fans are skeptical of that dynamic, like, you can see it when you're around those guys, and I feel like it definitely matters having him point blank say, I'm a Hog, I'm happy to be here, let's roll. I mean, again, it's not like it doesn't move the needle. It's not like, oh, him announcing that is going to lead to X, Y, and Z. But I think it's all about the messaging. And again, that's kind of what we as fans and observers and media members have been asking for, is just more of a connection, more of a open communication. We want to know what's going on. We don't want to have to speculate and be like, is this guy leaving? Is that guy like, what's going on? So anytime someone, whether it's Quincy Rhodes, whether it's Caleb James, whether it's Steven Dix or whoever puts out a statement and says they're coming back, it's greatly appreciated.
Yes, it is. And I think that, of course, knowing that the Sam Pittman press conference is today, probably played a little bit of a factor into it, but still good to see. Good to see that. And I like Taylen Green. I am not going to sit here and pretend he's the greatest quarterback at Arkansas. And I'm not here to say that, oh, don't you worry, just watch. He's going to blow up on the scene. However, he did some good things as the year went on. I know he had some injuries and whatnot, but it's more of a curiosity. I want to see what he can do with another year. I want to see that journey. I want to see that step. I don't know if it'll be better. I'm hoping it'll be better. But if everybody said, hey, it's year 2 under Petrino offense is really where those strides happen, okay, then let's see it. He's going to have to find some people to throw the dadgum ball to because they don't have anybody. But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see the next step for Taylen Green. So, again, if you're somebody that doesn't like him, that's fine. But they got quarterbacks coming in that are very young. I guess KJ Jackson, I think we talked about KJ Jackson, I guess the de facto backup in the Liberty Bowl, assuming he stays. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes and see how it plays out. But good for Taylen Green. All right, just a few other chats real quick here, too, before we get into the schedule. A shout out to Stellar Matt 13 for the super chat. We appreciate you, Stellar Matt. Always appreciate super chats. Imagine where Arkansas would be if they started NIL rollout when Ole Miss did, tampering or not. They already locked down top commits in the portal. Here's the thing. People may not remember this, and I think you remember it, Andrew. When the NIL first became a thing, Arkansas was one of the first schools that really went after it and publicized it and was all about it. Like, they had something in place. And you know who wasn't? Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Mississippi, a lot of these other schools were, we don't know what to do with our hands type thing. Well, guess what happened? After time, they got it together. They put it together. They blew up, and now you see the results. So I think Arkansas started better and faster than anybody. The problem is they didn't keep up and make the necessary adjustments needed to get to that point. It was almost like, oh, yeah, we got this thing. We're all about it as long as it's not going to cost more than $100,000 a year. And then when it gets into the millions, they're like, oh, crap. What do we do now? So, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's not as good as where it needs to be, but Arkansas was one of the ones that were all about it in the beginning.
And also, like, we just can't overlook the fact that, like, as much as we like to pretend like it is one of those things where if you have good NIL, if you have a lot of money, you're going to be good. If you have bad money, you're going to be bad. Like, there's a lot of nuance in between. It's definitely helping Ole Miss that they're a program that is viewed in high regard, even though their season was undoubtedly disappointing. Like, a lot of people thought they were going to be a playoff team. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. That hasn't killed their momentum in terms of cool factor. People still like Lane Kiffin. They're still all over social media. Every time someone enters the portal, it's like, are they going to go to Ole Miss? Like, oh, how's it going to be? And so, yeah, I think Ole Miss and their staff has done a good job of, like you said, being at the forefront of everything and kind of never killing their positive momentum. They find a way to spin it no matter what. Because, like, even after they didn't get in the playoff, Lane Kiffin's done like 3 press conferences. You see him on Twitter every day. He's retweeting funny stuff, trolling Arkansas. Like, they have found a way to kind of capitalize on this little period where, also, here's an important thing to note. You've got a lot of teams that are in the playoff or that are like really, I mean, really just the 12 playoff teams. But like, we talk about that in college baseball a lot, where like the year that Arkansas finished 3rd in 2022, Arkansas finished 3rd in the College World Series. That offseason, LSU got bounced in the regional, but they were able to get Paul Skeens. They were able to get Tommy White. They were able to get Christian Little. They were able to get Thatcher Hurd, all these guys, and they kind of got a head start by not going to Omaha. I wonder if it's affecting Ole Miss in that regard now, because they're kind of the most, I would say, outside of maybe Bama and maybe a couple others you can make a case for, Ole Miss is probably the most prominent football program right now that's not in the college football playoff. And so, look, if you're Georgia, it's really hard to be wheeling and dealing in the portal, although I know they still are. But it's hard to focus all your attention on that portal when you literally have the biggest game of your season a week from now, or a week from Saturday. And so I think Ole Miss has done a good job of kind of getting a head start and locking up a lot of these top portal guys now before all these other playoff teams have a chance to join the race. If Arkansas were smart, they'd be doing the same thing. But and they do have some guys coming on visits this weekend, but the guys that Arkansas has visiting, we're not going to go to playoff teams regardless.
No. And in fact, this is why I think it's so crucial to have a GM. You need a GM. So that way at the bowl games and prep and all that, or for the playoff, when you're doing that, just have it set up to where, hey, somebody else is doing it so you can focus in on it. Let the GM person do it. Yeah, we'll get to the schedule here in a bit too. I did want to, man, I wish I could share some of these pictures because we got a lot going on. But what's kind of cool that, of course, we know Tavion Wallace, the biggest commitment and signee that Arkansas had in the 2025 class, put up an Instagram story, said with him, Steven Diggs, and as well as Xavier Sori. And it just says, couldn't get no better with both my guys coming back. Much love, Woo Pig. So I was like, all right, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. So we'll extra stuff there too. Okay. So let's talk about this schedule for 2025, folks. And again, we'll get to your chats. We're going to be ending the stream a little bit early today as a reminder because Sam Pittman's press conference is at 1:30. As soon as that press conference ends, we're going to go live immediately following it to give you our reaction. So just keep it right here at Inside Arkansas and subscribe and hit that bell so that way you'll be notified. But last night, almost nobody cared, but Arkansas and the SEC released their official 2025 schedules for the football season. We know the opponents in the SEC and where Arkansas was going to play those opponents. What we didn't know is when. So that was really what it was about. I know me and Andrew, we talked about it. I did like the video that they put out. I thought that was pretty funny, where it was Xavier Sori as well as Cam Ball, who drew their own pictures of the opponents and then went to students at the union to ask them, hey, what is this? And try to get them to guess, and nobody really could. So it was pretty funny. I like the cleverness. It was just unfortunate that it came out during a time when everyone's just so pissed off.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's also funny that like they were scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of how many players they knew for sure were coming back. So those two guys who had already made their announcements they were coming back were like the only real options that they had. I mean, you couldn't get any receiver. I would have liked to see Taylen get involved in it since, I mean, he's the quarterback and it is what it is. And look, I mean, we'll see if either of those two guys that were in the video end up walking back on their word or whatever. But I thought the video was cool. I actually really enjoyed it. It gave me a nice little chuckle. And I liked that the students could not figure out. I actually got to be honest with you. I thought they drew pretty well for the most part. I mean, like, obviously, like we knew what it was, but like, I thought their drawings were decent.
Yeah. The only one I didn't really like was the Arkansas State logo. That one was kind of like, I wouldn't have been able to guess that. But
I wouldn't guess that one either. That's fair.
Yeah, but all the other ones, though, were pretty good. But here's the schedule, folks, as follows. You open up in Fayetteville for a change. How about that? You open up in Fayetteville against Alabama A&M. That's August 30th.
Big time.
Yeah, man, way to start. Then you go down to Little Rock at War Memorial to play Arkansas State for the first time in program history. First time these two teams have ever met, and football at least. And that game's going to be happening in Little Rock September 6th. Again, don't know times yet, but I mean, we already know that was going to happen. So game 2 is actually going to be in Little Rock, and it will be the last game at War Memorial Stadium. I'm just throwing it out there for you. So you have that. Then you go to Ole Miss. So let's talk about that real quick. So the first 3 games, we'll do it in quarters. But Alabama A&M start, Arkansas State and Little Rock, Ole Miss being your first SEC game, and it's on the road, similar to what it was this past season with Auburn, first SEC game being on the road. Like it, love it, hate it, timing-wise, what do you think of the first 3 games?
I mean, I wouldn't say I love it whenever your first SEC game is on the road against Ole Miss. But frankly, and this is kind of crazy and kind of speaks to where Arkansas is at as a program. The only thing that I thought of when I saw that was Arkansas has an acceptable loss to start SEC play. Whereas like if that were Mississippi State at home, you'd be like, oh, wow, there's a lot more pressure where like you have to win that one. I don't think people are going to be too upset if they lose at Ole Miss, who's going to be ranked like 7th in the country or something like that. You'll likely be a double-digit underdog. So even if Arkansas is a good football team, they probably would lose that game and nobody would have too much to worry about there. Obviously, you can't afford to slip up against Alabama A&M, and you really, 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 really cannot slip up in Little Rock against Arkansas State. That matchup, I'm like borderline excited for. It sucks that it's happening in an era where like Arkansas State very much is going to be live in that game. Like it's just going to be a thing that we talk about all offseason. Arkansas State will be looking and being like, their roster's pretty good. I don't know. And they had a pretty solid year this past year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they, Butch Jones, I think won Coach of the Year in the Sun Belt. I think I could be wrong about that.
Well, we know he's the champion of life too. So that's
true.
That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, like, look, obviously, if you lose to Arkansas State, we can go ahead and wrap it up. Like there's no coming back from that. And that's not a knock on Arkansas State. It's just kind of the reality of the world we live in. But yeah, I don't have really. Again, I actually am okay with them opening at Ole Miss because that's a loss that Sam Pittman can survive.
Yeah. And honestly, that game didn't go very well this past year, but we don't know what Ole Miss is going to look like. They're going to be good, so I don't want to make it sound like, oh, they could be a bad team. But yeah, I don't know. I just wish that would alternate where you open up SEC play on the road, open up at home. I would like to have that, but again, Arkansas every year. Let's just be honest. Every year, the past 10 years, Arkansas's first 5 games of the year were always crap, and it was never good. So, but yeah, I don't mind it. And I agree with you on the Ole Miss aspect for the first 3 weeks. But after that, you have at Memphis. So you might as well just stay over there in Oxford because it's not too far to get to Memphis. But you go on the road to play Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. That is a thing. September 20th. Then you return home, finally, to play Notre Dame in Fayetteville. So you have that. Then the bye week, your first bye week, and then on the road to Tennessee. This stretch right here, this to me is the key. It's the crucial time where at Memphis, it is what it is. It's a road team that's always got some quality. We'll see what they look like next year. But then you got Notre Dame, who is legitimately in the playoff this year, and you get them at home. But then you go on the road to Tennessee, which we know is going to be good. So this 3-game stretch, man, especially if you already drop one, going 2-1 to start the year, it is, you have to win. You have to beat Memphis, because if you don't beat Memphis, you ain't beating Notre Dame, and you're not beating Tennessee on the road.
So last year, going into the 2024 season, all the fans that hated Sam Pittman and loved Bobby Petrino or whatever, all kind of forecasted their path to Sam Pittman getting fired midseason, which by the way, we actually did downplay that a lot preseason. We were like, hey, we don't want to talk about this. Let's take it one game at a time. Let's just talk about the actual team. But I think a lot of fans, if you're trying to think along those lines, here's your path right here. You win your first 2 games. You lose to Ole Miss, obviously. And then that Memphis game is your first very clear chance to get Sam Pittman out of there. Arkansas loses that Memphis game. And Memphis is a good team. Memphis won, 9-10 games? I think they might have even won their conference. Regardless, you lose that Memphis game. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow, no matter how good Memphis is. And they are probably going to be pretty good. Then you lose that Notre Dame game, and then you have a bye week. I think if Arkansas starts off, I guess that would be 2-4. No, 2-3.
2-3. Yeah.
Math's hard. If Arkansas starts 2-3, which would be a 3-game losing streak, by the way, I think that would be the time you make a move.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that's even really that hot of a take. I think, if you lose to Notre Dame bye week, that'd be a perfect time to do it. I don't think the program would rally around the 2-3 Razorbacks. I think it would be a dumpster fire at that point.
Yeah, I do too. And I also I'm with you. I don't think Arkansas is going to win those 3 games. In fact, I think if you win one of them, or we'll say that if you go at this point in time, just knowing what you know in the first 6 games, because that's the ones we're looking at, if through the first 6 games you're 3-3, I think that's about.
Oh yeah, you're thrilled.
You're thrilled. But if you have a losing record midway point of the season, changes got to be made. I mean, of course, we know that won't happen, but it should, because it's tough. You never want to make excuses, but and this is another thing too, Andrew. That is 2 games in Fayetteville through the first 7 weeks of the football season.
But at least the first one's there.
Thank goodness. Yeah, that Alabama A&M is going to be lit. Can't wait for it to be at a 3 p.m. kick on August 30th in 98-degree weather. With everyone so pumped up and excited about the football season, man, crowd's going to be great.
It's really hard to build momentum with your home crowd and with your fan base when you have 1 month in between home games. You play on August 30th, then it's September 27th the next time you're at home. Then you have a bye week, then you have a road game. October 18th is the next time you're home. Now, at least fans will be really fired up for that A&M game, honestly, probably regardless of what's going on. And then you have 3 straight home games, so that's cool. So I guess if there's a case to be made, it's like you said, if Arkansas's 3-3 after that Tennessee game, you'll live with it. If you can get to 3-3 and then you go into that 3 straight home games, A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State, we'll see how good A&M is going to be. I'd imagine they're going to be pretty effing good. But that's kind of your chance to stay alive, stay within striking distance. Then you got 3 home games where it's like Auburn, you could very well realistically be favored to beat them. I mean, you beat them on the road. Mississippi State, you obviously beat on the road last year. Now they will be an improved team. By the way, as of right now, according to 24/7 Sports, Mississippi State has the #1 transfer portal class in the country. They have 3 commits, which obviously like that's not going to hold. There's going to be a lot of fluctuating, but I just want to point that out. But yeah, I mean, I think that 3-game home stretch in the middle of or like late October, early November, that is kind of going to decide this season, and it's going to decide kind of the direction of the program, honestly.
Yeah, because with having 3 straight home games there against, like you said, an easier part of your schedule. We mentioned if you go 3-3 in the first 6 games, it's great. If you go 2-1 in those, and that puts you at 5-4, like good job. Like really good job.
And you got a bye week, and you're like, that's a tough 3-game stretch to end the season, I'll admit. But I mean, hell, even if Arkansas's 5-6 going into that Missouri game, I mean, look, I know I'm not setting a high bar here. The fans are probably not listening to being like, this is awesome. But I mean, hell, if you're 5-6 going into that Missouri game,
I mean, listen, given the circumstances where it stands right now, I mean, here's the deal. Because of the portal, I'm not saying this is the way you need to look at it, but right now, like you're a 2-10 team. Like if this roster right now, like you're 2-10. So to get to the point to where you go from a 2-10 roster now and building it to a 6-6 roster in the portal, I'm not saying that's acceptable. I'm not saying that's great and everything's just hunky dory. But that would truly be a huge stride considering what you lost and going into the portal, getting these 1-year players, or at least these first-year players, and expecting them to, with this gauntlet of a schedule and everything. Like, that would be tough. Because you mentioned that you get the bye week, and in the end, good grief, at LSU, at Texas, and Missouri at home. So, yeah.
I mean, it speaks volumes about kind of where the program's at. That like my best case scenario I just laid out involves Arkansas being 5-6 going into the Missouri game with a chance to secure bowl eligibility. But I mean, realistically, like we can live in Candyland if y'all want, but like that's what we just laid out is kind of the best case. Like that's the realistic path to next season being doable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's your best case. If you can get to that final bye week where you need 1 win for bowl eligibility with those final 3 games left.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying you should just be tickled pink, but you should at least be like, all right, we can do this. However, here's the thing too, with LSU, for instance, everyone's pretty pissed at Brian Kelly. If he could be gone by that point in time, I'm not even joking.
No,
If they have another year where in the first 9 games, they start 5-4. Like they could be moving on. Like they're that level. Obviously Sark's not going to go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, that could be a game against LSU where, maybe you're going up against an interim. And I mean, that's probably the only situation where you could be going up against an interim of all the other games, but still that would be maybe something you could hope for and strive for to go down there to Baton Rouge.
You remember the 2021 season where outside of like the Georgia game and I guess the Auburn game where Arkansas stunk, where it felt like every team Arkansas played that year, they caught them at a good time.
Yes.
Like you caught A&M when they had their backup quarterback. You caught Texas when they had their backup quarterback in. I mean, the guy that they eventually benched and moved on from. LSU, like you mentioned, who could very well have who knows? If LSU is undefeated when Arkansas goes to Baton Rouge, I won't be surprised. But if LSU is also 4-5 and looking to fire Brian Kelly, I also won't be surprised. But that 2021 year, you caught LSU at a very good time where they were kind of on the downswing. And I think they even played a true freshman, Garrett Nussmeier, in that game that Arkansas won in overtime. And so, look, I'm not saying this is going to be the 2021 season, but that is a good point, though. Like, you just never know how some of these programs are going to shake out. Hell, Auburn and Mississippi State, I think those are 2 of the biggest variables where it's like, they both stunk this past year, of course, and maybe they'll stink again next year. I think Mississippi State, it would be hard pressed for me to imagine they're going to be a huge turnaround. But like, I have no idea. If Auburn went 10-2 next year, would you be stunned? If they went 5-7 again, would you be stunned? I don't know. And so, and again, it's very early in the offseason. All these teams we'll have a much better idea of the rosters by about February, March. But I'm looking at the schedule and it's very, very hard, frankly. Yes. I saw some people saying it might actually be the hardest in the country. But I do think there's a nice little middle ground there. Those 3 straight Fayetteville games, which like that never happens. You never see Arkansas with 3 straight games in Fayetteville. I think that is the point. You have to kind of scratch and claw to get there. And then that stretch right there is going to decide your season.
So let me ask you this, because I've just posted on Twitter too. If you could put all your money, I say if you knew for a fact Arkansas was going to get at least 1 SEC win next year, just 1, and you had to put all your money down on it, who would be the SEC win that you feel like would be most confident Arkansas gets next season?
Probably Mississippi State.
Okay.
At home, especially because at that point, regardless of where Arkansas's record is, if they have 3 wins, if they have 5, they have 4, it's going to be a game where you're like, we got to win this one. If you have 4 wins going into the Mississippi State game, it's obviously a must win where it's like, you don't want to go into that 3-game stretch needing 2 wins. So yeah, I would say Mississippi State just based off the simplicity of they were dog shit this year. Maybe they're 3 games better. Maybe they're 4 games better, but that's still getting them at home is one that you would feel pretty good about, but I'm not like overwhelmingly confident.
Yeah, I would say I'd actually say Auburn to me, because I just am that down on Hugh Freeze. Where I know that they've had some moments, but I just don't see any until they get a quarterback that can play. That's the thing is they just haven't had a quarterback. And if you really look back on it, when he was at Ole Miss, he didn't really have any. Chad Kelly was his best one, but the rest of them were kind of just Bo Wallace was not a good quarterback. Was it who was after Chad Kelly? Was it
Jordan Ta'amu?
Tiamu? Was that his?
Yeah,
Okay.
He was actually one of the better ones, honestly. He had a nice little run.
Yeah, well, it's funny too. Because
that year they had AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and Dawson Knox, and went 5-7.
Golly, you talk about horrible coaching jobs. Yeah, that'd be something. And the thing is with Tiamu, I always thought he went to Texas A&M because TAMU, TAMU, like that's why. So he didn't though. But yeah, that was just crazy. So my point is Hugh Freeze, I haven't seen anything from him that makes me like concerned about him being great. He could be, but just not at this point in time.
They've got that Duke transfer, Malik Murphy. I believe he's on campus for Auburn like right now. If they get him, I actually like Malik Murphy. He started his career at Texas and then Arch ran him off. I think he's actually like decent. He wasn't great at Duke, but I feel like he might be like the perfect guy. He's a big, strong guy. Like Hugh Freeze might be able to kind of unlock him a little bit where they'd be scrappy. But yeah, Auburn also had a like top like 5 or 6 high school class, which for whatever that's worth, whatever, I don't know. But so Auburn, again, I feel like they're one of the biggest X factors in the SEC where I could be talked in anywhere from 4 wins to 10 wins with them.
And let's also be honest. Next year's home attendance is not going to be what it was this year. Not even close.
No.
I mean, you got one. I'd say you got one high quality game at home. 2. I'd say 2 because Texas A&M and Notre Dame, I think, are your best home games by far. Notre Dame being the one. And I mean, you're gonna have people for the SEC games still, but dude, that Alabama A&M game, unless things just dramatically get hyped up and exciting in the offseason, that Alabama A&M game, because it's going to be at 3:00, it's going to be blistering hot, it's going to be right there, getting close to the Labor Day weekend and everything. There's going to be maybe 50,000 people there, maybe. But
really,
I think so.
I just figured this is the season opener. It might have a little bit of a, but yeah, I mean, maybe be one of those that you've got $6 tickets available on StubHub.
I can tell you this right now. If the season goes the way I think it's going to go, that Missouri game at the end of the season, sheesh, dude. You invite every homeless person in the area and let them go into the game because that's the only way you're going to get people into those seats. Even in 2021, when Arkansas was good, that Missouri game at home did not have the best of crowds. So I did want to bring this up real quick, and we'll use it as part of your SEC update presented by Rhoback. Be sure to check out Rhoback for all the great gifts that you can get for the holiday season for all your family and loved ones. Go to Rhoback.com and use promo code HOGSBY20. You get 20% off your first purchase. It doesn't matter how many pieces of items you put in that cart. They got it all performance wear. It's great. It's comfortable. It's amazing. It's high end. It's high quality. So get somebody the greatest gift of all, the gift that keeps on giving. Rhoback apparel at Rhoback.com, HOGSBY20 for 20% off your purchase. I wanted to bring this up, Andrew. We could sit here and talk about all SEC schedules, but Missouri's schedule, dude, I got to bring this up. Look, they start the year with 6 straight home games. 6 straight home games in 7 weeks. They get UCA at home. They get Kansas at home. They get the Fighting Andrew Ellis Raging Cajuns down there at home. They get South Carolina at home. They get UMass, the return trip, at home. And then they get Alabama at home. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, coming off a bye week, ready for that Bama game. Yeah, that's crazy. They did something similar this past year, if I remember correctly. And so, yeah, I mean, you look at that schedule where you're like, Missouri might not even be that great, but I mean, you can get 8 wins easily out of that.
Easily. And then if you look at the rest of the games, they go on the road to Auburn, which they may not be good, to Vanderbilt, which Vanderbilt's improved, but how good are they going to be? Then you get an open day. Then they get home against A&M, home against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And they end the season with their 2 road games against Oklahoma and Arkansas. Whatever Missouri has done, I don't know if they got pictures on Greg Sankey or something, but jeez, these schedules that they get is unbelievable. And it's never easy in the SEC, but when it comes to as easy as it gets, I don't see how you could have an easier schedule than they don't have to play LSU. They don't have to play Georgia. They don't have to play Texas. That's just unreal how they got that schedule.
Yeah, they'll end up losing a couple of those road games, but yeah, having your road games be very manageable. I mean, you're talking about Auburn, Arkansas, Vanderbilt. There was another one mixed in there where I'm like, yeah, they could that's how you want it to be. You want your tough tests at home and your not easy games, but your lesser conference opponents on the road. That seems like a recipe for another pretty good Eli Drinkwitz season.
I don't know. That was just one thing that stood out to me. But also, did you see? I know you did, but did you see the Georgia schedule?
I don't think I did actually.
You didn't see it? Okay, well, I got to bring it up real quick. I won't have the graphic up, but I'll just go through it all. We just went through Missouri, and we're like, oh wow, that's a pretty manageable schedule. Let me read you off Georgia's schedule, and I'm sure I can't wait to hear Kirby Smart. He's gonna be so pissed, and he's gonna complain about this whenever he gets asked about it. But it was pretty impressive. Here's Georgia's schedule. Now Marshall comes to town. I can't really tell who that is, like Mississippi Valley, some random team, doesn't matter. But this is their schedule. They get third game. Georgia has to go on the road to Tennessee. First SEC game. Open date. Then Bama comes to town. They get Kentucky in Georgia. Then they go to Auburn. They get Ole Miss at Georgia. Then an open date. Then they play Florida. They go to Mississippi State. But then they get Texas at home. And then they get Charlotte, and then they end the season with Georgia Tech. Now, granted, most of their easier game or most of their bigger games are at home, but they play essentially the top 3 to 4 teams next season in the SEC. They're going to be playing them again. So
that's tough. And plus Charlotte mixed in there. That was almost the fighting Bobby Peas.
Almost.
Yeah, that's the type of schedule where Georgia, they're going to go 9-3. And Kirby Smart's going to be like, this is BS. And he's going to be right. Or it's like, if Georgia goes 9-3 next year, they're probably a top 8 team, like realistically. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And then you're likely adding a SEC title game in there. Their strength of schedule, their BPI is going to be off the charts next year if they just kind of hold serve there. That's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel bad for them.
Yeah, no, I don't feel bad for them at all. But it's just funny how, a team like Missouri gets off the hook easy, but then a team like Georgia, which is your team, your best chance of getting a national championship in a lot of cases, who you'd want there in the playoffs, didn't do them any favors. And a few other little notes I thought of myself, but from Ole Miss, their non-conference opponent, because every team has to have some quote non-conference opponent. There's next year's Washington State on October 11th. So there's that.
At home?
Yeah, it's at home. I think that's because Wake Forest canceled the return game. I think.
That makes sense. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So I think that's kind of funny. Arizona State returns to Mississippi State. Kansas and Missouri play each other. There's that. Michigan and Oklahoma play each other next year in Norman. So kind of an interesting game there. South Carolina, Virginia Tech open the season. Tennessee plays Syracuse in Atlanta. Gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
You got Texas A&M plays Notre Dame. So wait, Texas A&M and Arkansas both play Notre Dame next year.
Granted. I guess, yeah, because now A&M, they hosted Notre Dame. Are they going to Notre Dame this next year?
Yeah. So and Notre Dame gets 2 SEC schools. Vanderbilt plays also Virginia Tech. So Virginia Tech opens with South Carolina, and then the next week they play Virginia Tech or Vanderbilt. So interesting there. And also, I think the biggest game that everyone's going to look forward to is Texas-Ohio State. That'll probably be the one that people really circle around. So just a few ones of note there for that.
Hey, shout out to this Georgia fan who just pops up every now and then. Blind Squirrel Sports. I always appreciate his presence and his comments. But he said he's hashtag not scared of that Georgia schedule. Which, look, I mean, if I was Georgia, I probably wouldn't be scared of playing anybody. But I just feel like if you're not mad, Blind Squirrel Sports, look at Missouri's schedule and then see if you're mad.
Yeah,
if you had Missouri's schedule, you could literally play the JV half the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And well, here's like we've talked about the whole time. Like, who knows what these teams are even going to look like? Like, we're just kind of assuming that,
Right.
oh, okay, Ole Miss will be good again. And they should, but we don't know. Mississippi State could be a team that's legit and crazy good, a lot improved, but we don't know.
Well, John, we do know Ole Miss is hosting 3 top 20 transfers in Jalen Braxton, Patrick Kudus, and Luke Hass. So
that is so absurd, dude. That is so absurd. How it was a joke, but it is kind of true. It's like, oh, if you're a good player, just go to Arkansas, and then if you're good enough, you can come to Ole Miss. Of all programs, too, Ole Miss. Well, it makes you wonder. Do you think? Here's my theory, Andrew. It's reckless. I think Arkansas. There's a spy inside the program for Ole Miss at Arkansas in the athletic department. There's inside jobs there. There's got to be.
Wow, I honestly had not considered that.
There's got to be something.
The worst take I've heard, frankly.
Yeah, there's got to be something, man, because there's the clip that these players are bouncing out of Arkansas and leaving for Ole Miss or interested in Ole Miss and visiting Ole Miss. There's got to be something to it, like especially since having 2 years in a row. So we may need to smoke the mole out, find out who's there, find out who's who's giving the intel to Lane
What if we came to the press conference today and he's like, we found out we had a mole. We executed him. He's gone.
It's like he's no longer with us. Like maybe that's the case, but I don't really actually think that's happening. However, it is a little alarming to see how that's going on. Few other things too, real quick, folks. We'll get to your chats before we wrap up because in case you're just joining us, in case we haven't told you enough, but it's a shortened, abbreviated Inside Arkansas Live today. 1:30, Sam Pittman's press conference is going, and as soon as that press conference ends, we're going to go live, and Curtis is going to join us reportedly for that. So we'll give our reactions. But I did want to bring this up. People are really upset about this, mainly students, but apparently Arkansas is charging their students, the University of Arkansas students, $100 for a ticket to go to the Liberty Bowl, student tickets. However, Texas Tech, the opponent for Arkansas, is only charging $25 for student tickets. Now, I don't know processes of like how is there some sort of reason behind it? Does Texas Tech have some sort of setup or some sort of deal? Do they have to pay more for the regular season over there at Texas Tech for student tickets so that way they get? I don't know, but if it's true and simply it's just this, has to be somebody has to address this as to why that is the case.
It definitely is interesting. The only thing I can really think of, and I've thought about it a little bit, and I said this yesterday, is that just since Lubbock is further away, and so they're thinking like, hey, if there's students that are going to be traveling, because Lubbock to Memphis, I mean, it's not like across the entire country, but it's a pretty decent drive compared to Fayetteville from Memphis, which is, not bad at all. But I mean, like over Christmas break too. I mean, we're talking about 2 days after Christmas. Like a lot of people are going to be having to travel over the holidays. You should make it as easy as possible for students to want to go to that game. And also, here's the thing. The U of A's figured this out. Because obviously U of A sells season tickets a lot. So, I mean, they don't really have to deal with this too much. But, like, there's a lot of students who were on the fence about whether they wanted to go to the game or not, I would imagine. I mean, we were on the fence about whether we wanted to go to the game. You see $100, that makes the decision for them a lot of times. So, maybe they'll sell them out completely. Maybe there is just such a demand for Arkansas student bowl game tickets. I genuinely don't know because I've never been a part of that process. I have no idea what it's like. So maybe they just know for a fact they're going to sell them no matter what. And they're like, well, we can charge them whatever because there'll be that much demand. And maybe Texas Tech's the opposite where they've had an issue selling season or student tickets to bowl games or whatever it is. But it's just really tough to have a direct comparison and it be literally quadruple of what your opponent is doing. That's tough.
Yeah. And I don't know how many students are going to make the trip. Maybe if there's students that are in the Memphis area from there over there for the holidays or something like that, maybe. But I just don't know. But then again, I don't know how many kids from Lubbock and Texas Tech's going to make the trip to the Liberty Bowl. Yeah. I have no idea. I don't know what the general fan base is going to be like over there. There's just so many questions that I really don't care about. And I don't think anybody else does as far as the attendance at the Liberty Bowl. Who knows?
Forrest here says the general admission tickets for the bowl game are around $70 on most platforms, which sounds right, I guess. But then that again, it's like, so then how the hell are students having to pay $100 to go to the game? When I was in college, dude, I could not afford $100 purchase on a whim like that. Like I really genuinely couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, dude, that's like 4 nights on Dixon Street that they're having to throw away. Like that doesn't come very easily. So
yeah, on Christmas, I gotta spend my holidays in freaking Memphis. That's
the weather's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. We don't have the forecast yet, but it's going to be the worst type where it's like 35 degrees but raining. So it's not cold enough to snow, but it's just miserable. It's going to be bad.
As long as water works in the city, I think people will be able to live, but fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, who knows with that and the construction that they got going on there. It's just weird, but still, yeah, December 27th, that Friday night, it's going to be it. It's going to be something's going to happen in there. I don't know who's going to play, but something's going to happen in that bowl game. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Well, I don't know. I got invited to go, and I told them I'd get back with them by a group, and they were going to pay for my ticket and everything. I'm like, I just don't think I want to go.
Well, and like, think about it. I mean, realistically, like you just said, you're kind of thinking about whether or not you'll go. If all of a sudden the price to go was 4 times more and your price is 0, but it's like, if it realistically, wouldn't it matter a little bit?
No, it would. It would to me. Like, and especially since there's just such a disconnect as it is. And I've talked to students about this because I know students have felt this way. I know regular fans have felt this way. I know that some people in the media felt this way. That just seems like the U of A and everyone's just trying to do what they can to push people away is what people feel like. And this is just a small scale, but it seems like it's a way of the U of A pushing kids away. It's like $100 to go to the Liberty Bowl. Well, why is there $25 over here for Texas Tech? Like, where's that coming from? And you know what? Here's the deal. If all these extra charges and fees and stuff, if you could just come out and say it's like, because we need NIL, then at least I still don't think a lot of people would pay it, but at least it'd be like, okay, that sucks. I don't like that, but still, that's fine. Like I'm going to something, but all we know is it's just filling pockets of people that, we don't really know where it's going. It's like the government. It's like pay taxes. Well, your roadways are going to get better. Man, my road's been bad for a long time, so I don't know where it's going still.
I see some people that are citing the like smaller capacity because obviously they're doing renovations to that one end zone. But my thing is like it's never even been close to full for the Liberty Bowl. I've gone 3 times and I don't ever remember it being anywhere close to full. Now the one year I didn't go actually was 2015 or
okay. I was going to say that year it wasn't full, but there was about 80% Razorback fans and it was pretty close. It was the closest I've ever seen it.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, look, and we'll see what it looks like, but like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, if you see the $100, that makes me think that like they know for a fact students are there's going to be a high demand for them, which maybe there is. I mean, look, I'm talking out of my ass here. I don't know. But I just have a hard time imagining that like a bunch of students are going to be like begging to go to that game.
No, I don't think there will be. But still, I've been surprised before. I couldn't believe there was many people that went to the games this year at home. So, maybe I could be surprised by that. All right, folks, we're about to wrap up. A few chats though before we get out of here. Blind Squirrel says, wish I was able to catch the live stream more frequently. Great show, guys. Hey, thanks, man. I did want to throw this in because people have asked about doing an audio only live stream version of what we do because some people can't just like open their phones.
Yeah.
Everything. I'm working on that. You feel like it should be fairly easy to do, but it's also, I'm trying to find the best platform to do it on because like you're like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that, everyone's already on. And I don't want to be like, okay, you have to go to this new place that you've never heard of before and click this. So I'm just trying to find the best way to do that. So we will be having that here soon, hopefully, of where you could, if you can't watch, but you still want to listen instead of holding your phone up, we'll keep you updated on that. We'll do our best.
There used to be with this Spotify live thing.
Yep.
What happened to that? Because I used to listen to stuff every now and then.
Yeah, again, that would have been perfect, but they stopped doing it about a year ago. They shut her down. I don't know why, but yeah, that would be ideal. That would be so nice to be like, hey, just listen live on Spotify. But unfortunately, they're not doing that. All right, a few chats here. Zach says, is it not extremely weird how Lane backed up Sam and said he was a good coach and beat the brakes off of him and steals off his players? No, it's not weird at all.
I was gonna say, actually, I don't think it's that weird at all. I think it's one of those things like. So as a fight fan, I've noticed this where like Conor McGregor, for example, like the best trash talker of all time, anyone that Conor McGregor has beaten, he will talk glowingly about. Jose Aldo's the guy he knocked out in 13 seconds that kind of launched this whole thing. Anytime he talks about Jose Aldo, he's like, oh, Jose, he's the greatest thing of all time. Someone that you're not threatened by, that's who you're going to hype up. Nick Saban has spoken glowingly about every Arkansas coach over the last 15 years. He loves them all. He thinks they're the best coaches of all time, which, I'm sure he actually somewhat believes it. But yeah, if you're constantly hyping up a guy, I mean, think about it. When you're about to play an opponent, an FCS team, what do you go to the Monday press conference and say, hey guys, I'm telling y'all, no, this team's really good. I'm telling you, this team is, if we don't play our A game, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to really show up to beat UAPB by 7. You kind of start planting those seeds. I think that's kind of what Lane has done. And yeah, I think honestly, dude, I really think Lane is one of those guys that, and I love Lane, I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's one of those guys who, like, yeah, he'll compliment you and whatever, but I think it's because he is so not threatened by Sam Pittman that he does some of that stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't a coach thing, but I always look back at the story of in 2013, I was doing stuff as a student there called Road with the Razorbacks, and they did this road trip where students paid like $20 and you could go to the game against Alabama in Tuscaloosa and like have a tailgate and everything because, hey, that was a great deal. They bus you over there and everything. I went over there. The Alabama fans were the nicest fans I've ever dealt with in my life. Like, I was just really shocked. I'm like, how's this team? Like, I figured they were going to be jerks and everything. They were so kind. They let us in. And then later I was like, it's because I'm not a threat and Arkansas is not a threat to them whatsoever. Like, that's why.
Yeah, I noticed that switch with a lot of my buddies who are obviously LSU fans. In baseball, they don't like me. They talk trash to me. During football, they'll be like, hey, man, good win over Auburn, man. That was cool. Yeah. And I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear that. Back in the day when I was a kid, I would like, at school, me and my buddies would be hardcore yelling about Arkansas LSU because Arkansas was a threat.
Just a couple more chats here, folks, because then we're going to wrap it up. And once again, we'll be back live as soon as the Sam Pittman press conference comes to an end. I just love this from BH. He says 103.7 The Buzz is having callers sing old country songs, and Justin Acree and guests are trying to guess which song it is. Meanwhile, Inside Arkansas is talking about Razorback sports. Well, first off, Acree's always going to be my guy. I love my time with the Buzz and everything. But just to give everybody a heads up on that, that's kind of how radio is and has always kind of been, especially down there at the Buzz. And they kill it. So, but it's 3 hours long, folks. I can sympathize. Like, we do an hour and a half here. And granted, we don't have the commercials and everything, but 3 hours every day. Sometimes you got to improvise and start thinking of some other things to talk about. So, but yeah, just wanted to bring that up. And also, okay, 2 more. I like this one from our Twitch. We do have a Twitch. So people are starting to the Twitch is
we're starting to light up on Twitch.
Yeah. Polar Knight says, I'm not all sure you two are from Arkansas. None of you talk like Sling Blade. Well, that's good. Have you seen Sling Blade? You've seen it, right?
I have not seen Sling Blade. Sorry. I saw that comment and was trying to figure out what he was talking about. I would also clarify, I'm technically not from Arkansas. I was born in the beautiful Bayou in Louisiana.
In fact, of us 3 with Curtis is the only one that's been born. It was born in the state of Arkansas.
You weren't born in Arkansas? I
was born in Dallas, Texas. But I lived. Yeah, I know. I'm a sellout. But here's the thing. I only lived there for like 9 months. And then we moved to Arkansas. So it sucks because I got to be like, you could not be more from Arkansas, but I technically by law was not born in Arkansas. So
yeah, it's weird. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. I'm the only one that was not born in Arkansas, but now I'm the only one, including my parents, who lives in Arkansas. Now my entire family is born in Arkansas, lives in Louisiana. I was born in Louisiana and now live in Arkansas. But that is interesting. It always bugs me when Bryce Mitchell is walking out for UFC and they say he was born in Texarkana, Texas. And I'm like, sure, that's true information, but I'm like, it's not an accurate representation.
Yeah.
But he's fighting out of Searcy, Arkansas. That's what really matters.
That's exactly right. Which, by the way, if you got to put Sling Blade as a movie you need to watch on your list. It's Billy Bob Thornton was in it. He's from Arkansas. It was filmed in Arkansas.
Okay.
It's kind of a dark movie, but has the funniest villain ever. Do you know Dwight Yoakam, right? He's a country singer. But anyways, he plays the villain in it, and it is hilarious. Like, just some of the horrible things he says is so funny. So put that on your list. All right. And last one. Seth said, according to Bo and Chuck, we are being over dramatic. They can replace the players that are leaving without any problems and be way better than next year, mocking the fans. They're delusional. Well, here's the thing. And, we've heard some of the stuff that apparently gets, little jabs thrown our way by them. And that's fine, because I've thrown little jabs at them too. It's all friendly banner. But here's the thing. You got to remember who is saying it, folks. Like, you're talking about 2 people that legitimately work at the University of Arkansas. They're not going to, and I'm not saying that they are sellouts. Like, that's just not going to happen. If I worked at the University of Arkansas, I could not do what we're doing right now. They just wouldn't allow it. So, but I wouldn't listen much to them on their takes on what you should do and how fans should be at all. I wouldn't do it.
My only thing is, like, look, one, I guess, like, Could Arkansas replace all these guys in the portal? Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to replace a lot of guys in the portal. Can they do that and make their roster exponentially better? I don't know how you can make a case for that. Like just logistically, mathematically, financially, because you can't in one hand say Arkansas. No, Sam Pittman's a great coach. He only sucks because of NIL and because he doesn't have all the funds, and then say Sam Pittman is about to go out there and create the greatest transfer portal of all time, class of all time, which you would pretty much have to do for Arkansas to be actually better talent wise. I think if you're going to make a case for Arkansas to be better next year, it would have to be along the lines of talent doesn't matter as much. You need to have the right culture. They're going to replace these guys. It won't be a more talented team, but sometimes talent isn't the main thing. Like the case for Arkansas being better in 2025 would have to be a culture, coaching staff, laying down the law. Bobby's got his guys. Travis has his guys. Like it would have to be along that line. If you're saying that you really think Arkansas is going to have an exponentially better roster next year, you're living in fairyland. Like it just does. There's not a case to be made that is possible given what all they have to replace and the depth that they have to build on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's just, you got to understand where it's coming from and all that. But I guess that since they're on the radio, they refer to us as that internet show. But as I've told everybody before, you know where everybody's at in the world? On the internet. You know where everybody is not in the world? I'll let you answer that question. You can just do that for yourself. Appreciate each and every one of you listening and watching in. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas right here. Follow us on social media. Check out our website, InsideArkansas.com. Once again, we will be live here in probably an hour or so as soon as Sam Pittman's press conference ends, giving our reaction. So keep it right here, and we'll get to all your reactions, our reactions, and comments and questions, all that. So for Andrew Ellis, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel here, about an hour. We'll see you then.